What if one of the most powerful foods for your gut, your heart, and even your long-term health has been sitting quietly in your refrigerator this whole time? Not in a fancy supplement bottle, not in a trendy wellness drink, not in a $1,000 anti-aging program, but inside a simple jar. A food many people treat alike as nothing more than a sandwich topping. A food that's been around for thousands of years. A food so ordinary that most people never stop to ask what it might actually be doing inside their bodies. Pickles. Crunchy. Tangy. Salty. And surprisingly controversial. Some people avoid them because of the sodium. Others swear by them for digestion, hydration, and energy. But what does science actually say? Could pickles help support your gut microbiome? Could they play a role in metabolic health? Could this ancient preserved food be one of the missing pieces in modern wellness? And why are more nutrition experts suddenly talking about fermented foods again? Tonight, we're uncovering the surprising story behind one of America's most underestimated foods. And by the end of this video, you may never look at a pickle the same way again. In today's world, people spend billions of dollars every year searching for better health. They buy supplements. They chase the latest diet trends.
They experiment with expensive wellness routines. Yet sometimes the most interesting health discoveries aren't found in a laboratory. They're found in traditional foods that humans have been eating for centuries. Pickles are one of those foods. At first glance, they seem simple. A cucumber transformed through preservation. But hidden inside that transformation is a fascinating story involving microbiology, nutrition, human history, and potentially some remarkable health benefits. Now, before we go any further, it's important to understand something. Not all pickles are created equal. Some are naturally fermented, others are simply preserved in vinegar.
Both have unique characteristics, and throughout this documentary, we'll explore exactly what makes them different and why that difference matters. Because one small detail could completely change the health impact of the pickle you're eating. But first, to understand why pickles matter today, we need to travel thousands of years into the past. Long before refrigerators existed, before supermarkets, before nutrition labels, human beings faced a constant challenge. How do you keep food from spoiling? Fresh vegetables lasted only a short time, and during harsh seasons, food preservation could mean the difference between survival and starvation. This challenge led ancient civilizations to discover one of humanity's oldest food technologies, fermentation. Historians believe pickling dates back more than 4,000 years. Ancient Mesopotamians were among the earliest people known to preserve foods in brine. Over time, the practice spread across continents. The Romans embraced it. The Greeks used it. Asian cultures perfected numerous fermented vegetables, and eventually, pickles became a staple in countless societies around the world. But here's what's fascinating. Ancient people didn't understand bacteria. They didn't know about probiotics. They had no concept of microbiomes. Yet somehow, through observation and tradition, they repeatedly returned to fermented foods, generation after generation, culture after culture. Why? Because people noticed something. These foods lasted longer, often tasted better, and in many cases seemed to support health and digestion. Coincidence? Or ancient wisdom that modern science is only now beginning to understand?
The answer may surprise you, because the real magic of many traditional pickles happens at a microscopic level. And that's where our story becomes even more interesting. Imagine placing fresh cucumbers into a salty brine. At first, nothing appears to happen, but beneath the surface, an invisible transformation begins. Naturally occurring beneficial bacteria start consuming sugars present in the vegetable. As they do, they produce compounds such as lactic acid. This acid changes the environment. It helps preserve the food, creates the familiar tangy flavor, and prevents many harmful microbes from taking over. In other words,
The bacteria are essentially becoming tiny food engineers. This process is called lactofermentation, and it has been used for thousands of years. Today, scientists are increasingly interested in fermented foods because of their relationship with the gut microbiome. Your digestive system contains trillions of microorganisms. Together, they form an incredibly complex ecosystem. Researchers now believe this ecosystem influences far more than digestion. It may play roles in metabolism, immune function, mood, energy regulation, and overall wellness. The gut has become one of the hottest areas of health research, and fermented foods are a major reason why.
But here's where things become important. Not every pickle contains live beneficial bacteria. Many commercial pickles are pasteurized or made primarily with vinegar. They're still enjoyable foods, but they may not provide the same microbial characteristics alayhi salam, traditionally fermented varieties. This distinction often surprises people, because 2 jars labeled pickles may offer very different nutritional experiences. And that leads us to one of the most fascinating health benefits associated with fermented pickles: the gut. Let's talk about something most people rarely think about: the community living inside their digestive system. Your gut microbiome contains trillions of microorganisms, and scientists continue discovering how influential these tiny organisms may be. When your gut ecosystem is balanced, many people report feeling their best. Digestion may feel smoother. Meals may feel more comfortable. Energy levels may seem steadier. Overall wellness often feels easier to maintain. Fermented foods have long been associated with supporting this balance, and fermented pickles are one example. Now, it's important not to oversimplify. Eating a pickle won't magically transform your health overnight.
The microbiome is incredibly complex, but including a variety of fermented foods in a balanced diet is something many nutrition experts encourage. Think of it this way: your gut is like a garden. A healthy garden thrives on diversity: different plants, different organisms, different nutrients. And fermented foods may help contribute to that diversity. What makes this especially interesting is that gut health may influence much more than digestion. Researchers are investigating connections between the gut and the immune system, the gut and metabolism, even the gut and the brain. Which raises a fascinating question. If the gut influences the brain, could pickles have benefits that go beyond digestion? The answer takes us into one of the most exciting frontiers of modern health science: the gut-brain connection. And what researchers are learning might completely change the way you think about food. For decades, scientists believed the brain was the unquestioned command center of the body. But today, researchers are discovering something remarkable. The conversation isn't one way. Your gut and your brain are constantly communicating, every second, every minute, every day of your life. Some experts even call the gut the body's second brain. And while that phrase isn't literally true, it reflects something fascinating. The gut contains an enormous network of nerves. Millions of signals travel between your digestive system and your brain. Researchers continue exploring how this connection may influence mood, stress response, focus, and overall well-being. Now, let's be clear. Pickles are not a treatment for mental health conditions, but fermented foods have become an area of growing scientific interest because of their relationship with gut health. And because gut health is connected to the brain, researchers are asking new questions. Could dietary choices influence how we feel? Could supporting a healthy microbiome contribute to overall wellness?
Could traditional foods play a larger role than we once thought? Nobody has all the answers yet. But one thing is certain: the foods we eat affect more than just our stomachs,
And that's a powerful reminder that health is often more connected than it appears. The next benefit might surprise you even more, because it involves one of the leading causes of death in America: heart disease. When most people think about heart health, they immediately think about cholesterol, or blood pressure, or exercise, and they're right. Those factors matter enormously. But modern researchers are increasingly recognizing that heart health is influenced by many interconnected lifestyle choices, including diet. Vegetables have long been associated with cardiovascular wellness, and pickles begin as vegetables, most commonly cucumbers. Cucumbers naturally contain antioxidants and beneficial plant compounds. While the pickling process changes certain nutritional characteristics, many valuable compounds remain. Some fermented vegetables may also contain bioactive substances produced during fermentation itself. Researchers continue studying how these compounds interact with human health. What makes this especially interesting is that cardiovascular wellness isn't built by one magic food. It's built through thousands of small decisions: the vegetables you eat, the sleep you get, the stress you manage, the movement you perform daily. A pickle won't replace those habits, but as part of an overall healthy eating pattern, it can be one small piece of a much larger puzzle. And sometimes those small pieces add up more than we realize. Speaking of metabolism, let's talk about blood sugar, because this is where pickles have gained a surprising amount of attention. Millions of Americans are concerned about blood sugar, and for good reason. Blood sugar affects energy, appetite, focus, and long-term health. Now, here's something interesting. Researchers have investigated whether vinegar-containing foods may influence blood sugar responses after meals. Some studies suggest vinegar may help moderate post-meal glucose spikes in certain situations. This doesn't mean vinegar is a miracle solution, far from it, but it highlights something important. Sometimes small dietary additions can have measurable effects. Many vinegar-based pickles contain acetic acid, the primary active component in vinegar. Scientists continue exploring how this compound interacts with digestion and glucose metabolism. Of course, results vary, and no single food can compensate for an unhealthy diet. But understanding these mechanisms helps explain why traditional foods continue attracting scientific interest. What's fascinating is that our ancestors had no idea what glucose was. They didn't know about insulin. Yet many cultures instinctively paired fermented or acidic foods with meals. Once again, tradition and modern science seem to be crossing paths. And that pattern keeps appearing throughout the story of pickles. But if you're trying to maintain a healthy weight, the next benefit may be especially intriguing. Weight management is often portrayed a la Salam, a battle of willpower. But reality is usually more complicated. Hunger, satiety, food choices, stress, sleep, activity levels, all influence body weight. And interestingly, pickles possess several characteristics that may make them appealing for people pursuing healthy weight goals. First, they're relatively low in calories. Second, they offer a strong flavor profile. The crunch, the tanginess, the saltiness. These sensory experiences can make meals feel more satisfying. Third, they pair well with nutrient-dense foods, salads, lean proteins, vegetable plates, whole food meals. Some people find that adding flavorful, low-calorie foods helps them enjoy healthy eating more consistently. And consistency is often where real success happens, not through extreme diets, not through punishment, but through sustainable habits repeated day after day, week after week, year after year. Because longevity isn't built in a month, it's built across decades. And that brings us to a benefit many athletes have been talking about for years: hydration. If you've ever watched sports closely, You may have seen something unusual: athletes drinking pickle juice. At first glance, it sounds strange. Why would someone choose pickle juice over a sports drink? The answer lies in electrolytes. When we sweat, we lose fluids, but we also lose minerals, particularly sodium. And sodium plays an important role in fluid balance and muscle function. Because pickle brine contains sodium, it has attracted attention among athletes and fitness enthusiasts. Some studies have even explored whether pickle juice may help with exercise-associated muscle cramps. Research is still evolving, and experts don't agree on every mechanism involved.
But the topic remains fascinating. Now, this doesn't mean everyone should start drinking large amounts of pickle juice. Too much sodium can be problematic for some individuals. Balance always matters. Yet this example demonstrates something important. Foods often contain benefits we never expect. What appears simple on the surface can reveal surprising complexity underneath. And that's exactly what we're discovering about pickles. But perhaps the most exciting area of all involves the immune system. Because much of your immune health begins somewhere unexpected, inside your gut. Most people think of the immune system as something separate from digestion.
But researchers increasingly view the two alayhi salam deeply connected. A significant portion of immune activity occurs in and around the digestive tract, which means gut health may influence broader aspects of wellness. This is one reason fermented foods have become such a popular area of scientific investigation. Again, no food can guarantee immunity. And pickles certainly aren't a cure-all. But maintaining a healthy diet that includes vegetables and potentially fermented foods may help support overall wellness. Think about it. For thousands of years, humans consumed fermented foods, alayhi salam, as a normal part of daily life. Today, many modern diets contain fewer fermented foods than previous generations consumed. Could that matter? Researchers are still exploring the answer, but the question itself is worth considering. Because sometimes progress doesn't mean inventing something new. Sometimes it means rediscovering something old. And what we're about to discuss next may be the reason many viewers clicked on this video in the first place: aging. Can pickles really play a role in healthy aging? The answer is more interesting than you might think. Everyone ages. It's the one journey we all share. The question isn't whether aging happens. The question is how well we age. Scientists studying longevity consistently observe a common pattern. People who maintain health into older age rarely rely on one miracle solution. Instead, they practice healthy habits over long periods of time. Nutritious foods, regular movement, strong social connections, stress management, quality sleep. Pickles fit into this story because they may contribute to several areas associated with healthy aging: vegetable consumption, dietary variety, potential microbiome support, enjoyable healthy eating habits. In other words, the real anti-aging lesson isn't that pickles stop aging. It's that simple, traditional foods can help support lifestyles associated with longevity.
And perhaps that's the most powerful message of all. Health doesn't always come from something revolutionary. Sometimes it comes from ordinary choices repeated consistently. Choices so small they barely seem important, until years later, when the results become impossible to ignore. But we're only getting started. Because in the next chapter, we'll uncover surprising benefits involving skin health, energy levels, sleep quality, exercise recovery, and some shocking myths that almost everyone gets wrong about pickles. And one mistake in particular could mean you're buying the wrong kind entirely. Stay with us. Because the most practical, and perhaps most surprising, are still ahead. When people think about healthy skin, they usually think about what goes on the outside: creams, serums, lotions, expensive treatments. But many experts believe healthy skin begins somewhere else entirely: inside the body. Your skin is constantly renewing itself. Every day, millions of skin cells are replaced. This process depends on nutrition, hydration, circulation, sleep, and overall health. And that's where the pickle story becomes surprisingly interesting. Pickles themselves are not beauty products, but they can be part of a lifestyle that supports healthy skin. Think about the factors we've already discussed: hydration, gut health, dietary variety, vegetable consumption. All of these influence the body's internal environment. And healthy skin often reflects healthy systems underneath. Some researchers are even exploring possible connections between the gut microbiome and skin health. This emerging area of study is sometimes called the gut-skin axis. While much remains to be learned, the idea is fascinating. What happens inside your digestive system may influence what appears on your skin. Imagine that for a moment. A connection between your gut and your complexion, your digestion and your appearance, your daily food choices and how vibrant you look over time. It's another reminder that the body operates alayhi salam, one interconnected system. Nothing exists in isolation. And speaking of feeling your best, let's talk about energy. Because many people today feel exhausted, even after a full night's sleep. Have you ever noticed how many people are running on empty? Coffee in the morning, another coffee in the afternoon, energy drinks, sugar, more caffeine, and still feeling tired. Modern life can be exhausting. Long workdays, constant notifications, stress, poor sleep, nutritional imbalances, all can contribute to low energy. Now let's be realistic. A pickle is not an energy drink. It won't suddenly transform your afternoon.
But foods contribute to the overall quality of our diets, and quality diets contribute to sustainable energy. When people consistently eat more vegetables, more nutrient-dense foods, and fewer highly processed foods, they often report feeling better overall. Some athletes also appreciate pickles because of their sodium content and potential role in hydration. Again, context matters. Everyone's needs are different. But energy is rarely about one food. It's about creating an environment where the body can function efficiently. Think of your body like a high-performance vehicle. The goal isn't to constantly hit the accelerator. The goal is to keep the engine running smoothly.
Day after day. Year after year. And one of the most overlooked factors affecting energy is something many Americans struggle with: sleep. Sleep may be the most underrated health tool on Earth. It affects nearly everything: memory, mood, immune function, metabolism, recovery, longevity. Yet millions of people struggle to get enough of it. Now, pickles are not sleeping pills, let's make that clear. However, some aspects of healthy eating may indirectly support better sleep patterns. For example, balanced blood sugar throughout the day can contribute to more stable energy and fewer late-night disruptions. Likewise, a healthy gut may influence systems connected to overall wellness. Researchers continue studying the relationship between the microbiome and sleep quality. And while the science is still evolving, the findings are generating tremendous interest. Because once again, we see the same theme. The body is connected. Sleep affects digestion. Digestion affects energy. Energy affects activity. Activity affects sleep. Everything influences everything else. The more researchers learn, the more interconnected health appears to become. Which brings us to another group of people who have developed a surprising appreciation for pickles: athletes. Whether you're a professional athlete or someone who enjoys weekend walks, recovery matters. Recovery is where adaptation happens. Recovery is where progress occurs.
Recovery is where the body rebuilds itself. For years, athletes have experimented with different strategies to support hydration and recovery. And among those strategies, pickle juice has gained a curious reputation. Some endurance athletes swear by it. Others remain skeptical. Scientists continue investigating why it may help certain individuals. One proposed explanation involves electrolyte replacement. Another involves neurological responses that may influence muscle cramps. The research is ongoing. But regardless of the exact mechanism, the popularity of pickle juice among athletes highlights something fascinating.
Traditional foods continue finding new relevance in modern performance culture. A food developed thousands of years ago for preservation is now being discussed in sports science conversations. Few people would have predicted that, and yet here we are. Which leads us to perhaps the biggest question of all. What does longevity research tell us? When researchers study populations known for exceptional longevity, they often discover something surprising. These communities rarely depend on miracle foods. Instead, they share patterns. Whole foods, plant-rich diets, regular movement, strong relationships, purpose, moderation, traditional eating habits. Notice something?
Many long-lived cultures regularly consume fermented foods, not necessarily pickles specifically, but fermented foods in general. Kimchi, sauerkraut, fermented vegetables, traditional preserved foods. Why? Partly because fermentation was historically practical, but perhaps also because these foods integrated naturally into healthy dietary patterns. The lesson isn't that pickles create longevity. The lesson is that longevity tends to emerge from consistent healthy behaviors, and pickles can fit into that broader picture. Not alayhi salam heroes, not alayhi salam miracles, but alayhi salam one potentially valuable piece of an overall lifestyle. And now,
it's time to address some myths. Because some of the most common beliefs about pickles are simply wrong.
This may be the biggest misconception of all. Many people assume every pickle contains live beneficial bacteria, but that's not necessarily true. Remember what we discussed earlier. Some pickles are naturally fermented. Others are preserved primarily with vinegar. Some products are pasteurized. Others are not. The result? 2 jars that look almost identical may have very different characteristics. This is why reading labels matters. Understanding how your food is produced matters. And asking questions matters. Because knowledge empowers better choices. Here's another common mistake. People discover a food has potential benefits.
Then they assume huge amounts must be even better. But health rarely works that way. Balance matters. Moderation matters. Context matters. Pickles can absolutely be part of a healthy diet. But they should complement other nutritious foods, not replace them. The healthiest approach is almost always the most sustainable one. And sustainable habits are the habits that last. By now, you've discovered that pickles are far more interesting than most people realize. But we're not finished yet. Because in the final chapter, we'll reveal the biggest mistakes people make when buying pickles, the best time of day to eat them, the healthiest ways to combine them with other foods.
Several realistic stories from people who changed their eating habits. And finally, a powerful lesson about aging, health, and why some of life's greatest wellness tools are often the simplest. The final chapter may completely change the way you see your next meal. Imagine walking into a grocery store. You head to the pickle aisle. Hundreds of jars, different brands, different flavors, different promises. But hidden among all those options is a distinction that many shoppers never notice. And understanding this difference could completely change the way you shop for pickles. On one side, you have naturally fermented pickles.
These are traditionally made using salt, water, thyme, and beneficial bacteria. The fermentation process creates lactic acid naturally. On the other side, you have vinegar pickles. These are typically preserved by adding vinegar directly. Both can be delicious. Both can be part of a healthy diet, but they are not identical. Naturally fermented varieties may contain live cultures if they have not been pasteurized. Vinegar-based varieties generally do not. That's why many health-conscious consumers carefully read labels. They're not just buying flavor, they're buying a specific process, a specific tradition, a specific nutritional profile. And this highlights something important.
Health isn't only about what we eat. It's also about understanding what we're eating. Knowledge changes behavior. Behavior changes habits. Habits change lives. Which brings us to the 5 biggest pickle mistakes people make. And the first one is surprisingly common. Many people never read beyond the front of the jar. But the real story is often on the back. Ingredients matter. Processing matters. Storage instructions matter. Sometimes the healthiest choice isn't the most heavily advertised one. Curiosity is one of the most powerful health tools you can develop. Pickles begin as healthy vegetables, but these should never become your only vegetables. The healthiest diets include variety: leafy greens, cruciferous vegetables, beans, fruits, whole grains, nuts, seeds. Pickles can complement that picture beautifully, but they shouldn't replace it. Here's where balance becomes essential. Pickles can contain significant amounts of sodium. For many healthy individuals, moderate consumption may fit comfortably within a balanced diet. But everyone's health situation is different. This is why personalization matters. There is no universal diet. Only smart decisions based on individual needs. Food should be intentional. The more awareness you bring to eating, the more likely you are to make choices that support your goals. Mindful eating isn't complicated. It's simply paying attention. And paying attention changes everything. This may be the biggest mistake of all, looking for one magical solution. One superfood, one secret, one shortcut. Health doesn't work that way. The most powerful results come from consistency.
Not perfection. And certainly not miracles.
So when should you actually eat pickles? The answer depends on your goals. Some people enjoy them alongside meals. Their acidity and flavor can add excitement to healthy foods. Others enjoy them after exercise because of their sodium content. Some prefer them as a low-calorie snack. The key isn't finding a perfect time. The key is finding a sustainable routine, one that fits naturally into your life. Because the healthiest habit is the habit you can actually maintain. Not for a week, not for a month, but for years. And speaking of habits, let's talk about food combinations.
Because certain pairings can transform a simple pickle into part of a truly nutritious meal. Pickles shine when they support a balanced meal. Try pairing them with lean proteins, turkey, chicken, fish, eggs, plant proteins such as beans and lentils. Their tangy flavor adds contrast and excitement. They also pair beautifully with salads, whole grain bowls, wraps, vegetable platters, even simple homemade sandwiches. One reason people love pickles is because they make healthy foods feel less boring. And that's more important than many people realize. Because if healthy eating feels enjoyable, you're more likely to continue doing it.
The best diet isn't the most extreme. It's the one you can live with, comfortably, happily, for years.
And now, let's meet a few people whose experiences reveal a deeper lesson. Not about pickles, but about change itself. Michael was 52 years old. Busy career, long hours, constant stress. Like many Americans, he rarely thought about nutrition, until a routine medical checkup forced him to pay attention. His doctor didn't tell him to find a miracle food. Instead, he encouraged a healthier overall lifestyle. More vegetables, better habits, less processed food. Michael began making gradual changes. One meal at a time. One grocery trip at a time.
Pickles became one of many simple additions that helped him enjoy healthier meals. Years later, he still follows those habits. Not because they're perfect, but because they're sustainable. And that's the lesson. Lasting change rarely happens overnight. It happens one choice at a time. Linda wasn't trying to lose weight. She wasn't chasing a trend. She simply wanted enough energy to enjoy retirement, to travel, to hike, to play with her grandchildren. Her focus shifted from looking younger to living better. And that subtle change transformed everything. She stopped searching for quick fixes. She started building daily habits. Healthy meals, regular movement, consistent routines. The result? A lifestyle she could maintain. And maintenance is where real success lives.
David's story sounds almost boring, and that's exactly why it's powerful. No dramatic transformation, no overnight success, no miracle cure, just small improvements, repeated consistently. He began preparing lunches at home, adding more vegetables, reducing processed snacks, choosing foods that left him feeling better. Over time, those tiny decisions accumulated. Months became years, and years became a healthier lifestyle. The lesson? Extraordinary results often come from ordinary actions, repeated long enough. Here's a simple experiment. For the next 7 days, pay attention, not just to pickles, to your entire eating pattern.
Notice how often vegetables appear on your plate. Notice your hydration. Notice your energy. Notice your habits. Add pickles thoughtfully if you enjoy them. Observe. Learn. Become curious. Because awareness is where change begins. And curiosity is where better health often starts. At the beginning of this documentary, we asked a simple question. Could a humble pickle hold surprising health secrets? The answer, alayhi salam, you've discovered, is both yes and no. Yes, because pickles are far more fascinating than most people realize. They connect us to ancient traditions, to fermentation, to nutrition, to the growing science of the microbiome,
to the wisdom of preserving food long before modern technology existed. But also, no, because the real secret isn't the pickle. The real secret is something bigger. It's the reminder that health often hides inside ordinary choices. The foods we eat, the habits we repeat, the routines we practice, the decisions nobody notices until years later, when those decisions become our lives. Longevity isn't built in a laboratory. It's built at breakfast, at lunch, at dinner. It's built during grocery trips, family meals, daily walks, quiet moments of consistency. And perhaps that's the most beautiful lesson of all.
The future of your health is not determined by one perfect decision. It's shaped by thousands of small ones. One day at a time, one meal at a time, one habit at a time, and sometimes, one pickle at a time. Thank you for spending this time with us. If you found this documentary valuable, let us know in the comments. Do you eat pickles regularly? And what's your favorite way to enjoy them? And if you're passionate about healthy aging, nutrition, longevity, and evidence-informed wellness. Be sure to subscribe and join our growing community, because the next food hiding extraordinary secrets may already be waiting in your kitchen. Until next time, stay curious, stay healthy,
and take care of the body that carries you through life.